I try and think about my decisions, not 10 minutes out or 10 months out, but I try and think about my decisions 10 years out. Now, when I zoom out 10 years, I start thinking about my kids. So I'm asking myself, are the actions that I'm taking going to promote confident, strong, non-fear-based kids and, eventually adults?
You have been a fitness model, so you know that diet pills don't work, for example. There are supplements and even, let's say, substances that promote like fat loss a little bit, but there is no magic pill that will make you slim. Maybe surgery will do.
I have an interesting definition of success, and it's experiences optimized over time. Am I able to optimize what I'm doing over time? If I'm able to, I consider that a success. Like if I can keep training hard, that's success. If I can keep producing profits in my business and growing my team, that's a success. If I can continue to stay healthy and have a strong relationship with my wife and kids, that's considered success. And, I grew up in the world where we raced 10K in university, and the coach would always tell you the race doesn't start until the halfway mark. And I don't know, that really made a lot of sense to me. It's like anybody can run the first half of the race hard, but typically where you start seeing the runners get sorted out is in the second half of the race. And you see this in all areas of life. You see pro bodybuilders and athletes peaking in their early 20s, and then all of a sudden they have an injury and then they can't train anymore.
As a serial entrepreneur, I'm always trying to evolve. Having great conversations with other high performers is one of the best ways to grow, not only in business, but also in spirit, health, and relationships. This is Svencast. Listen, grow, repeat.
I'm a software entrepreneur. If I would sell you software that you would take 10 years to develop, in that case, Digital 24, has been around for 10 years and has been developed constantly for 10 years. If I had to create that within 6 months, you can be sure it's full of bugs, for sure. And a software is not as complicated as the human body, I can tell you.
Yeah. The human body is created by a designer. I believe where there's a design, there's a designer. So why are we not entrusting the designer with the system he's already installed, which is this fancy thing called an immune system? And why are we not letting that thing do its job? So I'm a simple guy. I'm not a scientist, but I can look at some simple math, and the odds for a guy my age are so slim for anything to actually happen if I did, in the slim chance catch it, and the chances of something happening if I inject a non-FDA approved experimental, vaccine or mRNA, whatever it's called. I've heard some people say, well, I want to be a part of the experiment because it's going to, provide data. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to be a part of an experiment when I already have something working. Like, why fix something that's not broken? Right? Help people that are vulnerable, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's like, for me, it's not a complicated issue. I've done extensive research on this many, many years ago as well. None of my kids are vaccinated, and I'm pro medical freedom. One of my brothers, his wife's a nurse, and his wife's mom's a nurse and works on the front lines, and they got vaccinated right away, although they're young and healthy. They wanted that level, I guess, comfort. For me, I'm more comfortable not taking it. They're more comfortable taking it. So I don't judge people's level of comfort as an entrepreneur. I live around people's level of comfort all day long when people have to assess risk and opportunity. The opportunity to invest into themselves and grow a business, or the opportunity to, or the risk to stay where they're at and have that cost them in different ways by staying stuck and slow and suffering, if you will. So everything comes back to me just to assessing level of risk. For me, I recognize that, life is a gamble. Every single decision you make in life is a gamble. And I try and think about my decisions, not 10 minutes out or 10 months out, but I try and think about my decisions 10 years out. And where does this decision play out in 10 years from now? So now when I zoom out 10 years, I start thinking about my kids. My kids are 2, 5, and 7. So in 10 years, they're going to be 12, 15, and 17. So I'm asking myself, are the actions that I'm taking going to promote confident, strong, non-fear-based kids and, eventually adults. And if they're constantly seeing daddy, run and hide and stick needles in his body to protect himself, I'm not really, in my opinion, I'm not preparing my kids for the future. And I have a very strong belief. I believe that parents need to protect their children. Absolutely, right? But more so prepare their children. So I'm seeing, like, how am I preparing my kids for the future as opposed to, trying to protect them from, life. Because I, as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, I also believe that my kids have a heavenly father. I'm their earthly father, and I have roles and responsibilities as an earthly father, but they also have a heavenly father that is a sovereign God that has a plan for their life. And I have to trust that there might be things out there that, escape my fingertips. So I have to trust that I definitely want to protect my kids. I'm not going to go let my 2-year-old go into the backyard. Now we're in Florida and there's no gate by the pool. I'm not going to just let her go out in the backyard because kids, they'll die within 23 seconds of hitting the water. But at the same time, I'm going to communicate with her and, prepare her, teach her how to swim and get her confident in the water and do things that would, in the horrendous situation, something did happen, they could fight back, right? And, that's preparing your body with, bringing us back to this vaccine and all that. Prepare your body if you get hit by this virus, and arm yourself. Be proactive. I'm a big believer in being proactive and not reactive. So, get educated and understand, like, how does this thing strike? Who does it strike? What are the side effects? How can I minimize them? But to just run and hide, to me, that's not a strategy.
Yeah, to me, it seems like a little bit of like a magic pill thinking. Magic pill in a sense, like you've been a fitness model, so you know that diet pills don't work, for example. There are supplements and even, let's say, substances that promote like fat loss a little bit, but there is no magic pill that like will make you slim. Maybe surgery will do, but you cannot, like, if you translate that to to your immune system, the only thing, in my opinion, that really works is to have a strong immune system. And I'm really, what really makes me suspicious a little bit is that this has never been promoted. Like, if they're like so, let's say, pro health or pro saving lives, then why didn't they promote having a strong immune system? Never did. Like, pretty much all the measures are like, oh yeah, don't associate with people, keep your distance, don't breathe fresh air, stay inside, don't go outside, etc., etc. So all these things weaken your immune system, and your immune system is the number one thing that you would need to prevent disease. So I never understood this.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that the true vaccine is the virus itself. I'm here in Florida right now, and they just ripped the Band-Aid off. It's like, what are we accomplishing by trying to delay the inevitable? A virus is going to virus. You're not smarter than sorry guys, but no one here is smarter than a virus. And I understand, what people are now thinking. Yeah, but we got to minimize it. Yeah, but just rip the Band-Aid off. Rip the Band-Aid off. Look at Florida. They just rip the Band-Aid off. You get a spike in cases. Then you get the herd immunity. And it's because you trust the designer who built you guys for this. Like, even if you read in the Bible, it's interesting. It talks about how we will all see multiple pandemics. Like, this isn't the first one. There will be many, many, many more. So that's why I always try and make my decisions not based on the short term, but based on, okay, let's just play this out a little longer and try and think about, and that's my whole approach to business, to training, longevity. I think about this in context to training in the gym. How do I lift in a way right now that doesn't just get me results now, but allows me to keep lifting in my 50s and 60s? All right. How do I build my business now? How do I treat my team members, my clients? How do I think about, the strategies and tactics I'm using to grow my brand? Will they maintain a reputation that will ensure that I'm still in business in 10 years from now, 20 years from now? So I don't know if this came from my long distance running background, but I was a runner and I was a triathlete. So I grew up in the endurance world. And, I grew up in the world where we raced 10K in university, and the coach would always tell you the race doesn't start until the halfway mark. And I don't know, that like really made a lot of sense to me. It's like anybody can run the first half of the race hard, but typically where you start seeing the runners get sorted out is in the second half of the race. And you see this in all areas of life. You see, pro bodybuilders and athletes peaking in their early 20s or their late 20s, and then all of a sudden they have an injury, and then they can't train anymore. They're on the sidelines. Their career's over. And I don't know. I've always been more attracted to the way of life that allows me to go the distance. Those are the words I like, and that outlasts people. I think maybe I really like that that fable, the tortoise and the hare. I could really relate to the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. Inch by inch, life is a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. I've resonated with that more, and maybe that's where a lot of my way I build my business, the way I build my body, the way I see these situations in the world right now. I just don't see them as sustainable solutions to jab myself every 6 months for the rest of my life. I don't see that as a sustainable solution.
No. Yeah.
Everything the world, you know what I'm saying? So I look at things from the lens of sustainability, and I have an interesting definition of success, and it's experiences optimized over time. Experiences optimized over time. So am I able to optimize what I'm doing over time? If I'm able to, I consider that a success. Like if I can keep training hard, that's success. If I can keep producing profits in my business and growing my team, that's a success. If I can continue to stay healthy and have a strong relationship with my wife and kids, that's considered success. So how do I optimize my experience, but over the long term, not, the next 30 days, not in the next 1 year. And that starts to give you a sense of peace for, how you're running the race, where there's a lot of runners in the race and some guys are way ahead and you're like, man, oh man, that guy just hit 100 million. Holy cow, that guy just exited his company. Oh man, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, yeah, but you know what? He's going at a certain pace, and there's not a right or wrong way to run the race. Every runner has to figure out how are you going to run the race. And for me, it's always made sense to run the second half of the race stronger than the first half of the race.
And could you translate those principles, like the principles you've learned with triathlon and endurance sports? How did that apply for yourself to fitness and bodybuilding?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is that mindset that the race is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like a lot of people go out hard. So if you think about a race, let's think about a 10K again. You can run hard for the first 1 or 2 kilometers and you can be in the front of the pack and everyone's taking pictures like, look, he's in the front of the pack, and you can, have your kind of moment of glory, but there's still 8 kilometers to run.
Yeah.
Like, this is a long race. So I think it's having a vision of where you want to be at the end of the race, knowing that if I want to actually come top 3, I want to be an all-Canadian, or I want to win the race. Like if I run with the leaders, am I going to be able to sustain that? Or should I maybe kind of sit in the back and kind of just coast, just kind of hang into the back and then start to make my move, right? You have to think of like, how am I going to get to my end outcome, my desired end state, without like burning out, without dropping out, without over exceeding my capacity too early. And I think that's something that's really interesting to discuss. We all have limited resources and we have to figure out, how am I going to allocate my resources, right? When I was single, I had a lot more resources. I had a lot more time. When I didn't have 3 kids, I had a lot more time. I could kind of waste time. Now I can't waste time. So you have to be, it always comes back to, you're looking at my athletics, the endurance world, translating it into bodybuilding. Now it's the same thing. Like there's guys in the gym who are trying to get big overnight. And you can make some good gains if you lift really heavy, you crank up the volume. But then what happens next? You blow out your shoulder, your knee sore, your hip is bugging you. All right. You're burned out. Your testosterone levels plummet. Now you're not sleeping properly. Now let's just kind of translate that into a 16-week contest prep. So what do I do now? I've got 12 weeks before the show and I don't have any resources. My body isn't functioning in a way to keep training hard to burn off the fat. So I just screwed myself. Another example is like, if you're trying to lose body fat, what a lot of people do is they do too many extremes all at once. So they add the cardio, they cut their carbs, they train 2 times a day. Well, when I was working with one of the top bodybuilders in the world, my calories were very high. I was doing very slow cardio. And because it was a 16-week prep, we didn't up the ante until near the end. And everything went up in increments. And that's the sign of an expert. Somebody that knows that we're not going to throw everything at the body to get results overnight. Extremes always lead to extreme disappointment. So it's, again, having a vision. Where do I need to be in 16 weeks? I need to be 4% body fat. Right now, I'm 22% body fat. I need to be training twice a day consistently those last 4 weeks. So if I blow all my gaskets in the first 4 weeks of the prep, I just screwed myself over. So, I mean, what we're trying to do in life is coax the growth, coax the gains, not force the gains. So that's how we, and in order to do that, we have to go slow. And that's what I learned, smooth is slow and slow is fast. So we got to just we got to keep going smooth, right? And that, again, always comes back to having a vision of where you want to end up. And a lot of times, success in life is just not, screwing up or just staying in the game. I've passed so many people in fitness and in business just because I'm still going, not because I got better, but because they quit or they dropped out because they were at a pace they couldn't sustain. So I didn't catch up. They just dropped out of the race.
Yeah, and there, like, this endurance thing comes into play. I think endurance sports really teach you those principles. This is really cool, as opposed to, for example, if you just do bodybuilding, then then it's like you do your reps and you do your sets, but I think endurance sports are more, let's say, character building. And I haven't done endurance sports, so but I think it does, because anything you build comes down to endurance. For example, like my own business, Digital 24, it took me 3 years before I even made money. Before I could get the first $1,000 per month or so and take it out for myself, like as a salary. It's always like that.
In the following episode of Svencast.
What are your best tips to build a personal brand?
The definition of a brand is a promise repeated over and over and over. So what's the brand promise of my coaching program? It's to help you scale your business without losing your soul. And what I mean by losing your soul, you don't lose what's most important to you. Your faith, your fitness, your family. You can make a lot of money and you don't have to lose yourself in the process. A personal brand is going to come down to who you are.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode of Svencast again.